In the desert, I saw a creature, naked, bestial, who squatting on the ground held his heart in his hands, and ate of it. I said, "Is it good, friend?" "It is bitter, bitter," he answered. "But I like it, because it is bitter, and because it is my heart." That was In the Desert by Stephen Crane. Deserts have always been hostile in our minds, but they never show that harshness in the same ways. Unfortunately, more than other biomes, deserts are heavily influenced by imperialist mindsets, and because of that, there's only 3 or 4 different ways that they're really used. And each of them really deserves their own deep dive. So for this video, we're going to focus a little bit closer to where I live, and we're going to start in the United States. The American Southwest is hot and dry, and it requires a certain type of person to be able to survive there. People that are desperate for safety. People that have maintained families there for generations, and people who have more guts than sense. And it's that kind of West that we see in countless movies, books, paintings, cigarette commercials, and most importantly for this video, games. The West was a land of territories. Native American tribes fought to keep their homes and their lives. Outlaws fought to control territory and intercept trade. And settlements fought to uphold their European ideal of society. And every single one of those groups had guns. Westerado Double-Barreled begins in that intersection of the 3. Just on the outskirts of Clintville, you see your family ranch get burned down, and barely make it back in time to find your brother on the verge of death, who gives you his gun and asks you to put him down. Deserts are ruthless. And then you're set off into town to find clues to help you find the killer and get revenge. Deserts never forgive. And once you start getting leads, you have to travel all around the frontier to find him and kill him. Deserts are bigger than you can even fathom overcoming. But after narrowing down the suspects and combing through every inch of land you can access, you can find him. And you can kill him. Deserts can be overcome. And these are the main rules, it seems, to using a frontier. To have one person with one set of very personal stakes face those odds directly, and have a personal triumph at the end. But because of that, they heavily impact the face of the community around them. So let's take a look at a few games and see how they follow it. West of Loathing. The stakes are that you have to get on a train to go to Frisco. The odds, well, the cows came home. And there's necromancers and alien technology and so many bandits. And overcoming. You make it to Frisco. You get the option to let your character settle down. On the flip side, let's look at a totally different game. American Truck Simulator. Unlike the European version of this, which does not show as many deserts, American Truck Simulator is more boring and has less landmarks. You drive through miles and miles and miles of desert. And that's what makes the stakes difficult. You gotta deliver those packages. And the odds, well, it is boring. But you're also driving a semi. That's hard. And you gotta follow all of the rules of the road while doing it. And you have to pay attention or you're gonna run off the side of the road. Unless, of course, you want to. And overcoming. You'll make those deliveries, one way or another. You'll get there. And at the core of those games, that's all that it's about. You have very personal stakes to just get there. You want to settle down and find yourself. You want to get paid for your job. Those don't involve other people, but throughout the course of the game, in both of them, you involve other people. In West of Loathing, you drastically change the face of communities. You can wipe out bandit camps. You can keep goblin cities alive. In American Truck Simulator, it's not always noticeable, but you do affect the people around you. You have a choice to follow the rules as well as you want to. You don't always have to use your turn signal or wait for lights, and you do get penalized for not doing that. The control and power is in your hands to affect everyone. Of course, it's important to mention that this kind of desert is largely influenced by imperialist ideas. More often than not, the protagonist is from one of the settlements, and if we're lucky, we just have a racist caricature of a Native American as one of the supporting characters instead of Native Americans being some sort of vague antagonistic force. Heavy emphasis on the air quotes around lucky. I just want to make sure that it's clear. We're talking about something that's core to the American dream. And it's often an inherently racist dream. And it would be really irresponsible of us not to acknowledge it. And I bring up that American dream idea because that's the idea that a single person overcoming their own personal struggles and changing the community around them for the better, that's deeply American. It's in all of our folklore. And I shouldn't have to tell you that that's not how it really works. Our actions can affect people in negative ways. But that idea that the world could work in such a way where if we try to better ourselves, it makes everyone else's lives better, that's really compelling. It lets us indulge in those fantasies about gaining power and wealth without any of the guilt or responsibility of our actions. So let's look at a couple games that go there. Borderlands 2, while not exclusively in deserts, has a lot of overlapping qualities. The land is harsh, there's little potable water, and they're divided into those factions that you see in American frontier stories. In Borderlands, you play as a vault hunter, a character so solely defined by their goal to see the vault, get to the vault, that everyone just refers to them as Vault Hunter. And that makes you an enemy of Handsome Jack. And because the Handsome Jack is your enemy, you need to have some way of fighting back against him, or stopping him from stopping you. And in order to do that, you need some more firepower and manpower. So, to get help back, you help out some of the communities there, in Sanctuary. And through helping Sanctuary, you end up changing the face of the Wasteland. You can wipe out bandit clans, start and end cults. But none of those quests to changing the community are really core to your character. It's all about getting to the vault. But you still have choices and how to complete it. And those are what have drastic changes on the Wasteland. And speaking of Wastelands, Wasteland 2 is all about that community idea. You're part of the Rangers, one of the last bastions of law and protection in the Wastelands, and your goal is to find out about the murder of one of your senior officers, and, of course, to maintain the Rangers' reputation. In order to maintain that reputation, you have to help settlements and communities around you. And the game hits hard and fast to hit that point home. Almost immediately, 2 settlements need your help, and you have to decide who you help first. In my playthrough, I chose one, and because of that, the other one was completely wiped out. It was a village full of civilians who relied on the Rangers to protect them, and I let them die. But I was still furthering my own goal, to find whoever and whatever was trying to kill my senior officer. My actions had severe effects on the Wasteland. So, Borderlands focuses on your character's goal of finding the vault, and a lot of what happens around you is just whatever you need to do to get help. In Wasteland, you have a primary goal, and everything else is kind of a distraction, but does end up helping you. But let's look at a little bit different of one of those ideas. Slime Rancher is one of my favorite games of all time. It's really cute and it's bittersweet. And it's bittersweet because it does have a story. In fact, it has 2 storylines. One of the rancher that owned the place before you, and one of your girlfriend that you left behind, and how she's dealing with you leaving. Right away it's a little different because how are you supposed to affect other people if you're the only one on this planet? But that's because the story has already happened. You're living in the aftermath. You're learning why the rancher decided that his goals and being at the ranch were not compatible. You learn about what your character's goals were and why going to the ranch was necessary. Instead of creating a character who makes choices, you're given a character who has already made a choice, and it's a very understandable choice. It makes a lot of sense. But you have to decide if that was worth it. It's one of the only examples that I can think of that makes you actively confront those choices. We're all often seized by the fatal American need to have a pretty good time, and games set in the frontier are often built to fulfill that need. So, the next time you see a frontier style of desert in a game, take a look at how it establishes your goals, and how you interact with the community. Take a look at how it makes you feel like a lone ranger or an outlaw. And remember, in the end, you're gonna make it out alive. And the world is never gonna be the same. See ya.
What I saw is West Side Story. What I saw is just alright. What I saw is West Side Story. What I saw is just alright.